Welcome to Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. I'm your host, Jill Jardine, master's in counseling psychology, longtime astrologer, psychic, healer, and yogi. My guest today is Robert Potter, a real physical contactee of the Venusians and the Pleiadians. He has been researching healing and consciousness for over 40 years. We're so excited to have him on the show and share all his experience and wisdom with us. So stay tuned. Welcome to the episode featuring my guest, Robert Potter. Rob is a real physical contactee of the Venusians and the Pleiadians. He has been researching healing and consciousness for over 40 years. Rob has given seminars all over the world, including Egypt, Japan, Australia, Bolivia, Peru, Canada, China, Austria, and the United States. On the 22nd of November 2019, Rob met the six-dimensional Venusian moon-based commander, Aurora Rains. This colony, located on the backside of the moon, is made up of embassies with many different federations present from galactic members. The moon is under the jurisdiction of the Venusians. The ownership of the moon will be given over to the Earth when we have met certain criteria. Check out Rob's website, thepromiserevealed.net, for more information on Rob. Rob's website has many revelations about planetary liberation and spiritual knowledge. The website also has advanced healing technologies given to Fred Bell and Rob from the Pleiadians and the Andromedans. In 1989, Rob was physically transported to a Pleiadian mothership with Fred Bell, where he formally accepted his mission to be part of the victory of the light to liberate planet Earth. Love, peace, prosperity for all is part of this plan, and we must begin to take part in this transition. Our good works and loving service is required in any way we feel called to serve, is their motto. Rob is also a world-renowned expert on pyramid energies, and he has organized 3 tours to Egypt and the Nile. Rob has sold thousands of pyramids and pyramid systems for over 50 years. You can check out more about his pyramids on his website, thepromisereveal.net. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome my guest today, Robert Potter. Welcome, Rob.
Hey, thank you so much, Jill. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on your wonderful show as well.
You have so much to share with our listeners. I want to jump right in and talk about, how did you get connected to the Venusians and Pleiadians? How old were you? Maybe what was your first contact?
Okay, well, this is it's a long.
The Cliff Notes version.
Okay, the Cliff Note version is the age of 17. I read Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain, and I was fascinated with pyramids. So I think it was 16 or almost 17. I was in the quad at a break, and someone goes, "Oh, I know." A girl goes, "I know the Pyramid Man." I said, "The Pyramid Man? Really?" And this is located on my website, thepromiserevealed.net, on the About Me on the homepage. And basically, I went up to his house and he wasn't there. His girlfriend said, "Come on in." And I went into his house. He had the downstairs was this big garage, which is kind of like a workshop studio where I was later in the years past to do many things in creating products and stuff for him. And then he was an artist. He was an airbrush artist, and he had crystals in his house. And downstairs was a music room, and he had 3 levels to the studio. And I went up and waited, and he came in, and he with the first 5 pyramids, and we met, and he performed a something that Don Juan did to Carlos Castaneda. He placed his will on my will. That's a more metaphysical light body thing. But Fred was definitely a master, and he was a scientist. So I'll give you real quick on him. So he was his great uncle invented the telephone. His father worked with Henry Ford in Ann Arbor, Michigan, on Henry Ford's hemp farm and research facility, developing cars. And his father invented the automatic transmission and the alternator for Henry Ford.
Wow.
So Fred Bell was a genius, being bounced on the lap of Bob McCulloch and Bob Johnson of the marine engines, while these geniuses were working on cars. Henry Ford wanted to build a car out of hemp and fuel it on hemp oil, but the elite powers that be, uh, the Rockefellers and everyone, they didn't want that because then you couldn't charge high money and pollute the earth. So
Right. No
it's
hemp cars, huh?
no hemp cars and no hemp oil. That's renewable, the cleanest burning fuel oil other than whale oil. So it's a very we could switch our cars now immediately, but we don't have to. So anyway, so Fred, at the age of 14, was studying the shock wave of the atomic bomb at the University of Michigan under Dr. Leonard Katz. He had a small linear collider like CERN, but much, much smaller. And Fred was looking into a Wilson cloud chamber as they were shooting atoms, like you shoot a deuterium atom or a calcium atom into a deuteron, and you get what are called uh, the quarks, the strange field of quantum physics. The particles would explode and show you the other dimensions. So Fred and I'm kind of an expert in this. I learned from him. He was a PhD in physics because the government grabbed him at the age of 16, took him out of school, and took him to the University of Santa Barbara under the ROTC program, which was illegal, but he became a PhD in physics at 17. By
Wow.
the age of 20, he was in charge of the world's top radar set in Ray's, California. And who's in charge of the scene? It's that 20-year-old private, that pencil neck geek climbing up over that giant equipment, Fred Bell. He's some electrical genius. So later on that year, the Cuban Missile Crisis took place, and they were burning the reports. Fred Bell got very upset. He complained for a week, and they kept burning him. They were laughing at him. We've been burning these reports for 20 years, son. So he rode his motorcycle outside the base commander's house and did 2 minutes worth of smoke filled, noisy donuts. And on the next day, he went in on Monday or whatever. And they said, "You see a UFO?" And they said, "Yes." And they said, they motioned into military police and they put him in a straitjacket. And he went to the hospital. And an hour later, he said, "Tell him I want an honorable discharge." And he got expunged. So a week later, he gets a call from Werner von Braun personally to work on the Apollo 1 inside the spacecraft module where there were to be three space astronauts going on this flight. And he worked there again. And of course, 3 months later, he gets his whistleblower hat on and he starts complaining up the chain of command. And they're laughing at, he's still 20 years old.
Yeah.
And they're laughing at him. And finally, he confronts Werner von Braun. And he goes, "Oh," he goes, "Yes, Bell, Bell." He said he was walking down an aisle like a head geese with 4 or 5 scientists on each side in a V as they walked around. He said, "I have to tell you, sir, you're going to have a fire. These guys that I'm working with inside the capsule don't know what they're doing. And there's shoddy workmanship going on." And Von Braun goes, "Carl, take care of this, yeah." And so the next day, Fred Bell was fired. He filed suit immediately with the ALCU, and a week later, he gets offered a job at Northrop Grumman working on the Saturn. He's not working directly for NASA. He's working for a subcontractor, but he has security clearance and he knows his science like nobody's business. And so physics and everything, it's ingrained in his blood. Anyone who looked at his astrology said, "This is a physicist, this is a scientist, this is a genius." So,
And what happened then?
so what happened was that he got a settlement from the government for $80,000, and his lawyer told him to call Werner von Braun. So he talked to Werner von Braun because 3 men died at the Cape, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Werner von Braun called and said, I want to apologize, Mr. Bell. We should to you. Will you become in charge of all electrical quality control in NASA?" And Fred declined because he knew that they're lying and there's a lot of funny business. NASA is not a space agency. In fact, the government has landed um, on Mars in a joint Russian and American mission in 1963. I
Wow.
personally know another famous contactee named Howard Menger, who wrote some books. He was having contacts in the 40s. He was a electrical kind of genius, and he received impressions about how to build an anti-gravity machine. And he was meeting various Venusians in his home in Highbridge, New Jersey, and in Pennsylvania. That's another story. So Fred Bell and I started to have contacts with the Pleiadians. Fred was having physical contacts, and I was having lots of sightings. And due to my age and due to security protocols, um, they asked me to go. I was instructed and given certain techniques where I would go into meditation. He'd call me up, and I'd go up to his house. He said, "Come on up, the temple is humming." So I'd come in the house. I'd light incense in all four corners of the room. This has an esoteric spiritual message. This isn't about spaceships and spacesuits. This is about a spiritual transformation of the planet. So I would sit inside these pyramid systems that we had developed and started building based on the design specifications of the Pleiadian cosmonaut named Semyasi. Anyone can look up UFO contact from the Pleiades, and this is the space woman that I met and that Fred was meeting, and that I was physically beamed aboard their ship in 1989. But what I would do is I'd go up in the room, I'd do a meditation technique, and at a certain point, Fred would hit me on the back, and it would shift my assemblage point, and I would go out of my body, um, and I'd see the house below me, and I'd see the sunrise coming up over as I got high enough above the earth on New York, and it was still dark on the other side where we were. We always did this late at night because the astral plane or the frequencies were quiet. Everyone was asleep. We're working. I'm doing my metaphysical out of body travels, and I would go up and I was shown many, many things about my history, metaphysics, and the extraterrestrials, and a lot of things about the soul and stuff back then.
What,
So,
and what did the Pleiadians what was their main message, and what did they do healing on you when you were connected with them? What kind of
no, no,
phenomena?
no, no, no. They can't intervene in that way.
Okay.
They The divine intervention is to help us help ourselves within the parameters of the covenants that had been made in terms of the administration of the earth. We've mentioned in our pre-talk about the earth was is has like a rulers of higher dimensions that are supposed to administer and to act as guardians and to help in the flourishment of life in various dimensions. But the earth, um, you know, 250,000 years ago, came under the influence of what we know as, in biblical terms, as the Luciferian rebellion, which is higher dimensional beings who went against God's divine plan. This is a third of the angels of heaven. And these includes seraphim, Elohim, cherubim, Ophanhim, um, and other densians of the, let's call it celestialized or unmaterial uh, spheres of the galaxy. We're very much caught on the third dimension in an entropic universe where everything decays and eventually changes its form. But in the higher realms, uh, as Christ said, the last enemy to be conquered shall be death. And so they don't do that. I don't want to go too deep into this exopolitical understanding
Sure.
of the earth, but
Sure.
let's just say that the fallen angels ruled the planet and those covenants ended in 2012 on December 21st. When Raymond lived on Venus, he probably didn't even talk about that, but
Right.
for 2.5 months, he's very humble in that way. But so I had lots of experiences with them. A lot of then I Sim Yasi is the famous contactee. She's about close to 500 years old now from the Pleiades, and she was a contact for a Swiss farmer who had a lot of lifetimes. And of experience, and I started to communicate with with Colonel Wendell Stevens, very famous early warning guy. Lots of stories with him. I took him to Egypt in 1991, and before his death, some years ago, um, someone had stolen one of my books, and so I asked if could have a contact from the Pleiades. And because I'd worked closely with him, he was sending us Billy Meyer's contact notes in 1975 and 76 before Billy Meyer even published his book, or
Wow.
Wendell Stevens published his book. And so Colonel Stevens gave me copy 00002. And I can promise you 00001 is sitting in Switzerland at the Silver Star Center with Billy Meyer. So we were having parallel contacts, and Billy Meyer thought he was the only one. He was a little limited in his thinking there. Colonel Stevens said when Billy said, "Oh, no one else is having contact with Dr. Frank Strange's," and they didn't interfere with that. They just told him, "You're the only contact." Maybe they meant for us, but Wendell said, in reference to Billy, me thinkest thou dost think too much. So now I'm having contacts, and he was sending us Billy Meyer's contact notes. He's had over 1,000 contacts to date. They continue meeting space people, landing near his home, and all this stuff. He's had probably 29 attempts on his life.
Wow.
And yeah, he's divinely protected, an incredible spiritual and knowledge that he has.
Um,
So,
so
yeah, go ahead.
this is all the Palladian information.
This is Pleiadian, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm wondering if this is so fascinating that maybe can we segue to the Venusian message and the
Right,
Venus info that you've
right.
like come into contact with over the years?
So in the late 70s, I became in contact with a couple individuals who were very instrumental in teaching me ET 101. Fred didn't really talk about it. Though I was leaving my body, he would never comment on my experiences. He wanted me to have my own. And when I asked him, he said, "You have to have your own experience, your own interpretation. I can't interfere with what your process is." And, but I can say that I would leave his house at 1 in the morning. So you better ground out, go down and take an Epsom salt bath. So I ground out, I drive down the hill about 2 miles to my home, and a light would pace me about 8 feet right to my left from my car, all the way down. This is like, we're talking 2:33 in the morning. And I'd get to my house, it would go over. I lived in below a garage, and I would park, uh, actually I didn't park in the garage. I parked on the little thing there at the bottom of Bluebird. And I'd go down to my room, and outside the window was a light pulsing against 20 feet away, this little probe. They call it a register disc or a telemetric
What color?
monitor.
What color?
Monitor, pure white light
Mm-hmm.
pulsing with love. And
Okay.
I would just say to it, "I want to know. I want to know." Fast forward to I'm a massage therapist. I worked in Palm Springs. I was working at many of the top spas there. I went to this one called Two Bunch Palms, all Hollywood, very high end, charge a lot of money. And during this time, these two gentlemen that were instrumental, Michael Elysian and Frank Chile, were teaching me about the Space Brothers, and I was learning about the initial contactees of the 50s. The
Oh
Pleiadians
wow.
are kind of like Johnny come lately, but we're not alone, never have been, and never will be alone. They've been here for a long, long time, and it was decided 16,500 years ago. There was a council in Teotihuacan when, unfortunately, the reptilian, a default in the heavenly administration, there was not a high enough spiritual being that could administer to the earth. And unfortunately, this being named Marduk, this is an Anunnaki thing. I don't want to go too deep into this, but they were put in control of the earth, and they started to work against mankind with these fallen angels. We have fallen angels in charge of the earth. So now we have this whole system set up whereby we would go from a light age to a neutral age to a dark age to a neutral age to a light age. And these are kind of representative in the Indian.
Right, Kali Yuga. Yeah, like we're in the Kali
Yeah.
Yuga still, and getting ready
No,
to.
we're not. We're not. Not. We're entering. The whole thing has shifted. The covenants have ended. We're now in the golden age.
Okay,
We
great.
we could call it the Satya Yuga, but and so a lot of things are changing there. But we're still confused and in ignorance to what's going on. So um, step into the Venusians. Fred had always had a candle burning to Sanat Kumara, and he talked about the healing technologies of the Venusians. There was something called the dipolar ray. And so he had a device that was a Pleiadian device that was used in the Great Pyramid that basically restores you back to youth. It's a technology, and it's also known by another name as the Vril technology, which was used on Venus, and it was created a long time ago by the Pleiadians and the Aldebarans, and they were going around and hybridizing races without permission. There's a lot of genetic wars in the history. But let's
Yes,
focus on the planet of love, the planet Venus.
yes,
Their society originally came from uh, a solar system in Tau Ceti, and they were called the Norcons. And they saw that there was an asteroid coming in near the sun. It would explode, and it was going to wreak havoc throughout the solar system, hit planets, push them out of orbit. Who knows? So they decided to have some probes come out, and they had a fusion type of technology beyond the speed of light, obviously, portal jumping. And I believe they were fourth dimensional uh, physical beings at this point, 24 million years ago. And at one point, um, they found Earth was going to have a future genetic species called the lemurs, which is another part of the genetic history of the Earth. I can go into that. That's another call. But they had come to Venus, and the native population at that time, it was a prehistoric planet with giant trees, kind of like as big as you see it at Devil's Tower in Wyoming. That's an ancient tree from prehistoric times. So there's a lot of changes that go forth on various worlds
yeah,
throughout time. God is the creator, but God created evolution. They're not mutually exclusive.
yes,
And so a mankind with free will can tinker, but they're not supposed uh, to change things vertically. So these mistakes were being done by various races. So the Norcans came to, there was a tall bumblebee, 5 to 12 feet large, and the Venusian women would put their left hand on the head of the bumblebee, and they gave them permission to coexist on that planet. And they lived there approximately uh, 6 million years. And at some point, there were some beings that were born on the physical plane, and they became ascended masters in one lifetime. These are known as the Kumara brothers. And one of them was named Sanat Kumara. He was an ascended master for an extremely long time. And he's been a kind of a guardian of the planet and had lots of different positions as a world teacher throughout the galaxy, entire galaxy, incarnating on other worlds as looking like a this or that. There's many genetic phenotypes. And so basically what happened was is um, he became very instrumental in life on Earth. And uh, we'll talk about his relationship to Christ, but he incarnated um, 2,000 years ago, and he held the creator son of the galaxy who Christ called the Father of Lights. There is no anthropomorphic God as a being as such. It's an infinite, pure creative intelligence. It has no masculine, feminine. It has no form, and yet it exists within all form.
yes,
You know, and everything is, you know, I don't want to go into the physics here. I better get back to where we're at with understanding the Venusians. So these guys taught me about Venus, and I went up to Yucca Valley. There's a famous contactee named Gabriel Green, who was instrumental in teaching Raymond around the same time period that I was having contact with Gabriel Green. So Gabriel Green was like a contactee on steroids. A lot of phenomenon. Like James Gilland has a ranch, and there's people who are connected to UFOs, and they'll come so that people can see them. But Gabriel Green was teaching me deep metaphysical secrets and understanding their technology, their observation, their monitoring, their mission, their purposes. And he would call me up and I would have profound experiences
Did he have city
where
powers? Did he like receive cities or magical abilities from his
uh,
time?
he had spiritual qualities
Yeah,
that and experiences that wouldn't be revealed. You can't talk about that. Fred Bell
right.
had some of those, but those were nascent to the public. But anyway, so he called me up. He said the Master Hilarion was sending me a teacher. Long story, I went up, and there was a guy there who taught me about possession and stuff of the Greys and the government deal with these fallen angels and all that stuff. I learned a lot there. Basically, the end of the meeting, we went out and the Semyasi spaceship landed in front of me with Gabriel Green, the former military guy who had escaped, and a guy named Michael L. Legion. And I had a telepathic communication and with her, and I started crying because it was happening. And and the first thing she said is, "Now you know." And when that light was pulsing out my deck, I was crying tears, saying, "I want to know, who are you? Why don't you land? Why don't you talk to me? What's going on?" Blah blah blah. And finally, it was getting a little ridiculous. It was I was getting a little more demanding of Fred, of answers, and of the Pleiadians. And the ships would I'd be on the beach doing yoga. A ship would pull up, and I go, "Get out of here! What do you want from me? Why don't you land and talk to me?" I
So
said,
they were like monitoring you, but they weren't really trying to connect with you.
"Yeah,
They were
they're
teasing you a
monitoring me.
little bit. They were
I'm
teasing
getting
you.
tele- I'm getting telepathic information, but
Yeah.
I was getting visions of kind of like what I'm doing now. I was demanding like a deeper contact. So that's what happened in the '80s when I was working at the famous spas in Palm Springs and working on Hollywood people. I started to have these more more calming contacts where I was getting more information and shown things. And these continued. In one of my first contacts with the Venusians, I was at Gabriel Green's house. You go to his house, your car engine dies, and you get down, and then you go inside. My girlfriend's hair would stand up like a Tesla coil, where the hair is all out like
Yes.
electrostatic,
Yeah.
but not on my head. You know, all kinds of stuff going on with their the TV would go on in the other room, picture would tilt. He said, "They're agreeing with you. That's just them agreeing. Yep, they're making points here." So now I'm observing that they control matter and that they're very much their powers are superpowers of monitoring. These are ascended masters. These beings, the ones that I've met, are thousands of years old in one body.
Excellent
There's an
messages they gave you. Excellent connections,
right.
bringing it all, and you're bringing it all together, which
Yeah.
I want to kind of see how this would lead in then to where we are now on the planet, and what they think about what's happening on the planet in a way that can be maybe uplifting for people, and the messages from the Venusians that maybe
Right.
can give us some hope at this time. Are you interested in natural health and regenerative healing? Do you want to work with vibration to heal your body? Check out this patented wearable light technology at www.lifewave.com/JillJar. Lifewave is a company that has patches that you wear. So it's not transdermal, you're not taking anything in. And what these patches do, they activate your body's light. It's called biomodulation. And that light is activated, your body starts producing GHK, copper peptides, which in turn activates stem cell production. That's right. So wearing these patches will regenerate your body, reflects your body's light back into your tissues, and you become more vital, energized, reduce pain, inflammation, improvement of sleep, increased strength, or all possibilities. Other benefits could be hair quality, rapid wound healing, mental clarity, increased joy and stamina, your skin appearance and wrinkles could go away. Again, all probable and possible depending on your chemistry. Others have enjoyed increased sports performance and recovery and restored muscle or skeletal conditions. Check it out at lifewave.com/Jill Jar and order yours today.
Oh, they have a lot of hope, and you can see that on my website under my Truth References, which is my blog site. I should probably change the name of that. But I have 4 different blogs: Jesus Christ, Venusian Messages, and some major sectors there about the secret space program, HARP, and some of the negative things too. But the messages of the Venusians, I met Valiant Thor in 2003. I met Don Thor in Yucca Valley. I went down and they showed up in a car. Victor won. They took the time to dress up like they did in the 50s.
Huh.
And then
Here we are.
they have a 1957 baby blue and white mint condition Chevy convertible. There was a driver in the front. I've seen him on multiple occasions. And then there was Don Thor, the famous vice commander, who was sitting next to Valiant Thor in the picture taken at Highbridge, New Jersey, that anyone can see. It's Stranger at the Pentagon. And that book is on Amazon. I think it's possibly on my website, but there's a lot of history to this. So my experience then is, they're not admitting who they are, but I recognized who he is.
Right.
He came up and bought a pack of cigarettes right in front of me, and I telepathically said, "Look, I know who you are. I know you don't smoke cigarettes." And he asked for a pack of Camel, and he pounded it on the counter like they did in the 50s. He was wearing jeans, a T-shirt, penny loafers with a penny in it. The girls had 3 beautiful blonde girls on the back, got out, and they skipped to the store with the vivacious joy and energy of 12-year-old girls, just happy and squealing, and it was amazing. So throughout my 35 or so contacts with various different Venusians, it culminated in 2019 with Raymond arranging a meeting with me of the Venusians at a library in Cheat Lake, Virginia. They have the ability to have you not see things. I met another Venusian at Dr. Frank Strange's Inner Circle meeting in 2007 before he passed away. And I met Valiant Thor and 3 other Venusians in
And so, what is their theme?
2003.
What's the theme of their message for us here on Earth?
Well, all these meetings with them, they're not engaging me. They are
Okay.
testing me.
Okay.
They're checking my vibe and my frequency. And, I probably failed some of those tests in a certain sense. But um, I'm a Venusian starseed. I've spent lifetimes, and they explain some things to me. It doesn't make me any different. First of all, I just have to say I'm human, 100% human.
Yes.
And we're all dealing with the human entropic universe. And it's important to know that I'm simply designated as um, a messenger or a representative to pass along their messages like a postman, and to let these stand on their own. So, from my meditations of their answers and how it goes, it's transforming my awareness and the ability of to overcome the human emotional programmed limitations of scarcity and lack, of fear, of hatred, of bigotry, of judgment. And these are conditions and patience, my God, the patience. I become very frustrated, and you're just supposed to keep your head down. And I'm learning more and more to just be calm and relaxed. Raymond is a great example of it.
This has been fascinating information that you've shared with us, Rob, about your connections with the Pleiadians and the Venusians and the history. Like it's just so fascinating to hear all these trajectories of how they've been connected with us here on Earth and what they hold for us on this planet in our evolution. So what I'd like you to share is how can people get in touch with you? How can they find out some of these stories and about your pyramids, your website, and also about your upcoming retreat in Mount Shasta?
Oh, thank you so much. So my website again is apromiserevealed.net and has a homepage about me, a shop, about the pyramids and information. Then under events, and on the first page, there's a banner that's going around. You click on that, it'll take you the information about the conference. And if you go up to the truth references, there's one called The Victory of the Light, The Future of Our World, all these different sections. And, I can, the Venusian messages are um, pretty incredible. The information that they want to share is not about silver spaceships and spacesuits. It's about inculcating a presence of peace and to recognize the message of Christ, which is um, all men, everyone on the earth, including all animals, are part and parcel of a universal God creator. We are all connected uh, in all time, in all space, in all dimensions, in all worlds, not only in this galaxy, but throughout the galaxies that we can see, worlds without end. There are actually 60 planets in our solar system above the physical dimension and what are known as the celestialized spheres.
Right.
There are
Raymond
six,
talked about that. Yeah, Raymond talked about that. That's,
right, and
yeah.
that's important that people understand. And we have to have our imagination, and we have to stop judging people and being bigotry by their religion, their beliefs, their ideas, and realize that we are one family. We have to have compassion and empathy. The entire world's societal infrastructure is collapsing, and we will rebuild it from the ashes. The other thing they've asked me to share, which is very important, we are entering what is called the tribulation period of the Bible. People think apocalypse means bad things. Apocalypse, we're going through that now. Apocalypse means revelation. Everything that's happening for those with eyes to see and ears to hear, and open hearts and open minds with love for their fellow man, and treating each other as equal, no matter what their condition, and having compassion and empathy for the shoes that these people have walked in. There's billions of homeless people on the planet, and
Right.
those in other countries that have not known what we've known, and they have a completely different uh, series of lessons and experiences, and these are all valid and part of the divine. We want to put everyone in a box and get everything organized, and everything has an explanation. So the main message is to be peaceful, to be kind, to have patience, to have empathy, and to serve one another, and to do our best to lift up each other up, not financially, but by the presence, by taking the time, and by listening to people. Thank you for your time, Jill.
It was good. Thank you. All right.
All right,
We'll
God
be in
bless. Bye.
touch. Bye. This episode is dedicated to Rob Potter, who was my guest on the podcast Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. The interview occurred on April 25th, 2025, and sadly, Rob passed away on May 5th, 2025. So this posthumous episode is dedicated to Rob Potter and his life work with Venus. May he rest in peace, and hopefully he's enjoying a Venusian paradise. It's a great time to book a reading. So check out my website, jilljardineastrology.com/shop, and pick the kind of reading or service you would like. I hope you enjoyed this episode featuring my guest, Rob Potter, talking about the Venusians and the Pleiadians. Make sure you share, download, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review. This is Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, sending Venusian vibes and Pleiadian peace through the quantum field.